All right, we're good. Hello, everyone. Welcome into a special episode of Matt Sports Talk. And this episode is kind of a movie trailer, so to speak, a preseason launch of season 3 that will officially kick off next week. And I have with me a very special guest. And she is a former player, not just in the NAIA, but the Crossroads League, played with the Huntington University Lady Foresters, had just a phenomenal career, finished in the top 20 all-time in scoring, had over 1,000 assists as well, and helped lead her team her senior year to the NAIA National Tournament for the first time in over a decade, which was absolutely amazing. And that special guest that is joining me today is Gabi Melby, who is now the GA at Huntington in her second season. Gabi, thanks so much for being able to come on and join me today and to do this interview.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. So my first question is, January 2025, you hit pardon me, you hit your 1,000 career points and at home against Taylor University, if I recall correctly. And what was it like, hitting that milestone, that game? What were you under any pressure going into that game, or did you think, well, let's just try to help lead my team to the victory tonight? Just what was going through your mind heading into that game, knowing that you were just that close to hitting that amazing milestone?
Yeah, obviously, it was a great feeling. I couldn't have done it without my teammates and my coaches. I going into the game, really I was just focused on winning, doing everything I could to kind of get our team going towards our main goals. But obviously, yeah, that was a great day. It was super fun to spend it and share it with the people that I love the most, and so it was super fun.
Yeah, for sure. And then I just think that not that long after that game, you guys host number 14 in the country, St. Francis, and a team very, very good, Callie Gregory, NAIA All-American, and you guys host them. And the game ends up going into double overtime, and you hit the game-winning shot in that game off balance in the right wing corner, and man, like, that was just amazing. And actually, it's one of my most favorite memories of you as a player, just hitting that shot, seeing all the excitement, not just from the head coach Darby Maggard, but the whole entire bench and all the fans that were in Platt Arena that day. And just what was that win like, for you and your team, just being able to not just upset a team in the Crossroads League, but a team like St. Francis that has an amazing defense, really good offense. Just what was that game like in that moment, for you and your team, being able to get that big win? And that was a season where you guys were kind of toward the bottom of the Crossroads League standings, and you ended up going 10-8 in the Crossroads League that season. But just in that St. Francis game, just what was it like, just being able to get that huge win that day?
Yeah, obviously pink out game. That game means a lot to us as a whole. As a program, and so to go out there with the girls and play for something that's bigger than us, and have an impact on other people's lives, that's really what it's all about. Obviously that shot was super fun and to celebrate with my team like that, but I'm not in that position without my team. There were a few other girls that hit some big shots and made some big time plays throughout that game, and so they put me in a position, and it was a lot of fun. But yeah, pink out, it's all about playing for something that's bigger than us, and so that's kind of going in there, play free. That's kind of how my mentality was.
Yeah, for sure. And I of course, you mentioned, your teammates hit some big shots in that game. Bailey Kellum, Kendall Yoakum especially, like, she hit some very clutch threes at just the right time to help you guys stay in that game and come out on top. So my next question is that you are officially 19th on the all-time scoring list at Huntington, and you came to Huntington after your freshman year at UT Martin, NCAA Division I. And coming to Huntington, just looking back on your career over the course of your 4 years, your freshman year at UT Martin to your final 3 years at Huntington, was there any growth in that process over the course of those 4 years of your collegiate basketball career?
Oh yeah, for sure. I am not the person and player that I am without the people that have surrounded me, especially at Huntington. I've been blessed to have such a great role model in our head coach, Darby Maggard. She really poured into me, not just about basketball, but also in life. And so I credit her to just the impact that she's had on me and this whole program. But yeah, Huntington, God has a funny way of kind of disrupting your plans. And I didn't really know anything about NAIA. I didn't know anything about Huntington University. I've only been to Indiana a handful of times. And so, but now this place is home to me, and I couldn't imagine being anywhere else. The people here have made such a lasting impact on my life, more so even outside of basketball, and that's something that I'll forever be grateful for.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes God's plans are always the best. Like it doesn't matter what our plans are. Like His plans are always the best. His timing's the best, and of course I've learned that over the years, and I love that. That was a very well said. And my next question is that you led the Crossroads League your senior year, 6.3 points per game, which was amazing in terms of assists, I might add. And you of course, that was a great season. Now, for anybody watching this video that play basketball, that play the guard position, how are you able to see the floor not just on the offensive side of the ball, but also on defense at the same exact time?
My game overall, I really I grew a ton throughout Huntington, and so I credit that to my coach, Coach Gabi Melby. She would sit down with me after every game, and we would watch film, and she would point out things I'm doing well and things I need to work on. And so I'd come in every day eager to learn and eager to get better and grow. And so I think being able to kind of adapt and work on areas that I needed to allowed me to play free out there and to see the court.
Yeah, and obviously, for those people watching, that obviously is helpful to them, because there could be somebody watching that's currently playing as a basketball player in the guard position and says, okay, well, how am I able to not just read the offense but the defense at the same time? And obviously, the head coach, it does a great job of that. Not just that and whatnot, but the assistant coaches, any grad assistants, people that can break down film and do scouting and say, okay, well, here's how you can read the offense and defense at the same time, knowing where your teammates are on the court, whether they're on the far side, the near side, top of the key, in the paint, in the low post, no matter where that is. Having coaches as your guide definitely helps out in that way. So my next question is, yeah, absolutely. My next question is that the now senior group broke the decade-long drought of making the NAIA National Tournament your senior year. Of course, Bailey Kellum, Kendall Yoakum, Peyton Hartsoe, Liv Raby, Annika Nelson, phenomenal players that I've had the pleasure of watching over the past few years. And just for y'all as a team, 2 seasons ago, when you made the national tournament, just for you as a senior, just what was that like? Helping, as a senior, having the upperclassmen leadership, what was it like being a part of leading your team to a decade-long drought of going to the NAIA National Tournament?
Yeah, it was amazing. We knew when we were going into it that we had the ability to really make a difference here and do something that hasn't been done in a really long time. And so we came in every day willing to work and to be honest, not really worrying about the result, but just getting 1% better every day and trusting the process, which is something that we kind of focus on. But I mean, that group, they're amazing. They're great kids. You can even see it to this day last season, and they faced so much adversity and they were able to lead while doing so, and so I'm super proud of them, and I'm so excited to see them in their last year.
Yeah, absolutely. This year, like it honestly, like I've thought all summer long that I just think that this upcoming season is going to be the year for Huntington women's basketball to finally break through. I'm not going to make a prediction, on this video where y'all are going to finish, but I really think that y'all have an excellent chance of getting back to the national tournament and getting out to Sioux City for the very, very first time, which would be just amazing for that program. I was out there, 2 seasons ago, and And I consider Sioux City, Iowa, the Super Bowl version of NAIA women's basketball. And even 2 years ago, being out in Sioux City, I thought, man, like this would be awesome for Huntington, University women's basketball to be out here on this stage. The environment in Sioux City is amazing. It's a great city, and it would just be awesome to see the team make it out there this upcoming year. So my next question is that you're now entering your second year as a graduate assistant, which I'm sure is a very busy job trying to balance games, weeknight games, weekend games, do some scouting, plus all the schoolwork that goes along with that. So what have you seen from the sidelines during the games compared to what you saw on the court as a player?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think one of the biggest things is being able to communicate with the players. When you're out there playing, there's a part of you that can just do it. Like, don't worry, like, I got it. Like, I'll just pass it here, or I'll just make this defender go there. And so there's now a level of I have to communicate it in order to teach them. And so that level of communication has to be direct, and they have to be able to actually like hear it and be able to apply it. And so that's probably the biggest adjustment. Obviously, when you're playing, you have to communicate and you have to talk, but it's a different type of communication. And so that's probably one of the biggest things that I've had to kind of tweak and really use my voice in order to help the girls.
Yeah, and obviously, you're an excellent GA, and I have no doubt that after graduation, that wherever God leads you, you are going to make an amazing coach. No matter where the school is, God only knows the answer to that question. But you're more than welcome. And my next question is that, looking at your experience from the player side of things, how has that experience helped you connect more with the girls on the roster, and especially now stepping into that coaching role? Just how has the past player experience, helped shape into that role of coaching all the girls on the roster?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of the biggest things is that the girls respect me, and so that makes it a lot easier. They trust me. They know that I've gone through what they're going through. And so that's something that I'm able to kind of relate to them. And then another benefit for me is the fact that I played for Darby. And so I know her coaching style. I know how she wants things ran and what it's like to be her point guard. And so that's something that I'm able to kind of use as a leverage to help the girls and kind of relate to them more. And so I would say that's one of the biggest benefits as being a player for Darby and for this program. I can relate to them and help them better.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's very important. Especially coming from being a coach, it's just so important to be able to help the players on the team, not just grow in their game, but also help them grow in their faith, and making sure being able to incorporate the faith aspect into that. Because Huntington is an excellent faith-based school and keeps Christ at the center of everything, which is very, very important. And my next question for you, Gabi, is that what advice would you have for the players that are on the team right now that are freshmen, sophomores, that want to grow as an upperclassman leader in a year or two? Just what would your advice be to them in terms of helping grow their leadership skills heading into their final 2 years after this upcoming year?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is just trust the process, and that's super hard to do, especially as a freshman. And I struggled with this too as a freshman at UT Martin. Is you come in and maybe you don't get enough playing time, or you don't get the playing time that you wanted, or it's a lot harder, and so you're having to juggle that on top of you're away from home, and you have harder classes that you're taking. Your schedule is different, and so as a freshman, that's a lot to take in and a lot to handle. And so the biggest thing for me is trust the process, understand that, hey, it's going to be hard, but you are capable of hard things. And to also lean on those who are around you. Obviously, each team, they have upperclassmen, and they know what you've gone through, and they know what you're going through. And so lean on them and help them kind of like teach you, you know, and kind of be like a sponge and absorb everything that they're saying when you're young, and that way that you can apply it when you get older and you're in the position where you can help the underclassmen. And so that would be my biggest thing.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, when you were mentioning that, like it reminded me of my freshman year, you know, at Mount Vernon Nazarene. Just, you know, I was, you know, that's been 10 years ago now, which is hard to believe. And for me as a freshman, it was just, you know, quite scary. And I had never lived away from home before. And I was just trying to balance that with my classes and talk to my academic advisor and talk to my mom and brother as well. And like, it was really hard for me in my freshman year. And then, you know, as a sophomore, you know, I grew a lot more and met more people. And my junior year, you know, that was another really, really hard year. But my last two senior years, not just my fourth year, but also my fifth year. Of course, my fifth year was during COVID, so I didn't get back on campus until the spring of 2021. But, you know, at that time, like I got through it, and definitely, you know, give all the honor, glory, and praise to Jesus Christ, because, you know, he truly helped me through the most difficult 5 years of my life. And I'm sure, you know, on from the basketball side of things, it works the same exact way, to where you can go out there, you know, all 40 and play your best all 40 minutes. And you know, obviously players that play all 40 minutes, they're not going to, you know, shoot 65% from the 3-point line every single game. They're not going to score 20, 25 points, because, you know, society today, you know, tells you, well, you got to score, you know, the most X amount of points every game, or make the most money. And yes, you know, those things are very, very important. But what's most important is when you go out there on the court, know in your heart that you're glorifying your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, most of all, regardless of what the final score says, regardless of how competitive it is, regardless of how chippy it can be, which it can get chippy at times. And man, like that, I just think that a lot of players these days, you know, don't really understand that, so to speak, but especially, you know, in terms of Division I, Division II, where it's public universities. But in the Crossroads League, where you have eight truly faith-based schools outside of Marion and St. Francis being Catholic, but 8 out of 10 schools in the Crossroads League being solid Christian, which I think is absolutely amazing, to where, you know, even if those players come into those schools and are not saved, that, you know, their coaches can bring faith into it. Not just, you know, you're not just there to on a basketball scholarship. You're there to get a great education, graduate in 4 years, maybe 5 years, depending on how long it takes you. But most importantly, you're there for the faith aspect, where if you don't know Jesus Christ, you know, your coaching staff can share that with you and invite you into that relationship. You know, and I've seen, you know, just this week and last week, you know, some posts from, you know, another Crossroads League school, you know, with a couple of kids being baptized, which I think, I mean, they're not kids, but, you know, players being baptized, which I think is incredible, especially because of how competitive it is, and not just in the Crossroads. Like, it just seems like every single year, every conference gets so competitive, which is an awesome thing to see. More players want to come in and play more. They want to lead their team. So again, just the faith aspect of things is very, very important for sure. I mean, speaking of the faith aspect, my last question for you today, Gabi, is that over the course of your 4 years, not just your freshman year at UT Martin, but your final 3 years at Huntington, do you have any favorite Bible verses that really helped carry you through the most difficult times in your basketball career? Not just, you know, in your 4 years as a player, but even now as a GA. Just, do you have any favorite Bible verses that have really helped carry you through difficult times?
That is a really good question. I have a few. I am terrible at memorizing, like, where in the Bible it is. I get them all mixed up, but oh man, that's a good question. Okay, I gotta think of my top 3. I was not ready for this. I will tell you what, through my 3 years at Huntington, this place completely changed me. In a faith aspect as well as basketball wise, but the moment I will say that had a lasting impact is when we took a mission trip to Thailand. And I would greatly encourage everybody to take mission trips after that, because that was life-changing. You got to see just God work in so many amazing ways. And so that was the most changing. Now, Bible verse, I would say, I'm going to pull it up. I think it's Colossians 3:23, if I'm correct. There we go. I knew it.
Yeah, perfect.
Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters. And for me, this was the backbone, because especially my senior year, I think it's so easy to get wrapped up in basketball being your identity. And when I was younger, especially coming from Martin to Huntington that first year, I put so much pressure on myself to be perfect, and I was not glorifying the Lord in playing. Instead, I created it to be almost like an idol, and put so much pressure on myself. And after my mission trip, it really changed my life. And so this verse, especially my senior year, I was able to kind of let go and trust that, hey, I put in all of the work. I put in like hours of studying and hours of watching film and hours of all of this stuff. Like, now I'm just going to work for the Lord. Like, I'm going to use this platform that I've been given to make an impact on other people and to try and make my teammates better around me. And that's why I love coaching, is because that's what I get to do every day, is to try and make an impact. Not for myself, not for anybody else, but for the Lord. And so that would be my favorite Bible verse.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a really good verse too. And I love, what the NIV version says, that, in other words, whatever you do, let it glorify and honor the Lord Jesus Christ. And like, I love, NIV. I'm also a big fan of the Message translation, the CSB, which is the Christian Standard Bible. Those probably are my most favorite two translations. And that verse, like that really is just so encouraging, not just, for basketball players, but for anybody in general, because it tells us that no matter what you do in life, you're doing it all for the glory of God. Like, it doesn't matter how hard it can be. And honestly, for me, during my 5-year college journey, like, that would have been a great reminder verse for me, just, realizing that, yeah, things were hard. Yeah, I had, tough classes, tough exams, but that, as important as all that was, like, I was glorifying Jesus Christ and all of that. And that is just so important. And man, like that, you sharing that, like that was so encouraging, talking about your mission trip journey. And again, I echo that statement, to where I would highly encourage people to go on mission trips, because it is just so life-changing, to where, you're not just, pouring into yourself, with honoring God, but you're also, pouring into other people that you meet that don't have that relationship with Jesus, and you're able to share that with them, and that is just so important. And it's like you could leave one person, you could leave as one person and come back completely changed for the better of God's kingdom. And that is just absolutely amazing. And I'm so glad you shared that and you had that amazing experience, because that I think is truly a testament to God's faithfulness, not just in your life, but you being able to pour into others' lives and sharing the love of Jesus Christ with them, especially in a world that desperately needs to hear that good news of the gospel. And I think that is so important. Well, Gabi, thanks so much for being able to join me today. This was just such a great, episode, featuring, episode feature, I should say, highlighting your amazing Huntington career. And like, I honestly miss seeing you out on that court, being that leader that you were, going up and down the court, coast to coast, shooting layups, stopping at the top of the key, shooting 3-pointers and whatnot. Like that, like I miss that, honestly. But I think that this senior class this year at Huntington, yeah, you left a legacy on the program, but now this senior class, it's their turn to carry on that legacy, in their careers heading into this year, trying to, help you guys make the national tournament for the third straight year, which would just be absolutely amazing to see that program back on the national stage. And hopefully the Sweet 16, at least in Sioux City, Iowa, maybe even further. Who knows? God only knows that right now, because we're not even to the end part of the regular season yet. But it's getting closer, and it's going to be here before we know it. And then the end of next March is going to be here, and everybody will be like, oh, wait a minute, how'd the season go so fast? And I've experienced that over the last few years. I'm like, yeah, I'm looking forward to the season, and then the season just comes and goes, and it's like, man, I want it back, which obviously we can't get it back, but man, I'm so looking forward to this upcoming year. And Gabi, thanks so much for taking the time to join me today. And this was just such a great conversation, really in depth. And I can't wait to publish this episode here soon, and share it publicly, on social media, and tag y'all in that post, and be able to showcase Huntington University women's basketball. It has just been an absolute blessing today. And again, thank you so much for doing this interview. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. And for those of you watching this video, if you found the conversation to be helpful and or informative, please either like, comment, or subscribe. Any one of those options helps me out greatly. Thanks so much for tuning into this video. Have a great rest of your day. God bless.